there was this period when we took some outside investment money in 2009. It was sort of protracted over a period of time, but that general period. And the reason you take investment money is you're going to plow it into building the company, and by definition operate at a loss. Otherwise, you wouldn't have taken the outside money. And in the 12, kind of late 11, 12 period, we were spending a lot of money, and I let myself be influenced, took some of the guidance from people who, upward or bust. You gotta spend money to make money, and it'll come together, and all this kind of stuff. And at a certain point in the middle of 2012, sort of realized it's not coming together. This isn't working. And unless I change something, this is gonna spin out of control, and the company is gonna die. So there were a lot of expectations built up in the organization, and I had built a lot of them up, right? And had allowed them to be built up in me, right? And that was that we are plowing this money into the company to become much bigger and take it to the next level, and all of these kind of phrases that you get inundated with when you're around that kind of razzmatazz, right? And we had hired a lot of people and all this kind of stuff. And again, I reached a kind of gut check moment. In spending was kind of ballooning, and I reached this gut check moment where I was like, this is not working. This is not working. And I had to let a couple people go, because they were part of the plan that was not working, and the company was paying them a lot of money, and also had to just kind of button everything down a lot, and that was very hard. It's very hard to kind of tell an organization collectively, we need to pull back a bit. We need to retrench a bit. The kind of like this idea that we're going to be twice as big next year and the year after that. That's not going to happen, at least not in that time scale. And, in the, I don't remember the precise period, but in 2013, a number of people left TPM. A number of really good people left, voluntarily. Not, they weren't fired. They, just decided to go other places. And that's because we couldn't give as big a raises, and just people, that whole thing. So that kind of thing there, even though it wasn't any one thing, was, in a sense, a mistake. But again, it wasn't one specific thing. It was, I let the organization get a bit ahead of itself. And it was very hard to course correct, because no one wants to be course corrected. And I don't mean just, people who don't want to lose their jobs. I mean, very few, only one or two people lost their jobs. And those were some of the most, highest paid people. But people want excitement. They want, onward and upward and all that kind of stuff. So frankly, I've told a few people this over the years. I'm really more proud of that period than in some ways I am with creating the organization in the first place. Because as much as I'm very proud of and very high on myself for creating TPM, a lot of the period of creating TPM was like being in an updraft, right? Kind of like your timing is just so right. And everything keeps getting pulled forward, right? Kind of you inevitably attribute a lot of it to yourself, but again, you're just in an updraft, right? And in that later period, about a decade plus later, we were in a downdraft for a lot of reasons. I don't think we were in a downdraft as a journalistic organization. We did great work at the time. But whereas kind of trends and history were on our side at the beginning, and at the other point they weren't. They were against us. And so sort of navigating the organization through that was pretty tough, and I don't think was the only or even the logical outcome of that period. I mean, again, in like 2001, 2, 3, I mean, I was working like 20 hours a day. I was working my ass off. But there was this sense of sort of like you touch it and it turns, kind of like you're doing everything right because the things are on your side. The wind's at your back. So that period of to me is kind of like, I'm happy, proud that I kind of navigated the organization through that, because again, I don't think that was the only possible outcome or even the logical outcome.